Hello there. Welcome back to Culture and Connections. I am your hostess, Mariah Young, the First Impressions Director with 48 Days. And today I'm actually pretty excited to share my guest. Honestly, sometimes you run into people in the work that you do and you just click with them and it's really fun. But before we jump into introducing who I have today, I want to ask you a question. And that question is, what do you wish the leaders in your company taught you about related to managing and leading teams? Oof, you guys, we can dive really deep into that one. And while we're going to talk about some systems that my guest has put into place, I really would love for you guys to be thinking about that question. And if you have any questions for Matt, make sure that you have those ready. So without further, we'll return in just a moment. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. I almost got into introducing Matt right away. That's how excited I am. So I'm not going to tell you guys too much because the truth is I actually want him to share it. He has this amazing life that just every time I talk to him, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And truly, he has a heart for people. He has a heart for leadership and just so many things that I just thought were so exciting. I had to have him on the show and share them with you guys. So now, without further ado, I bring to you Matt Cincera. Woohoo! Yay! Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining me today. I sure appreciate it.
Well, I love being here and love being part of the 48 Days community. I've been a longtime member and longtime listener, so great to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. And of course, as Dan's audience will get this sent to them later, I would love, is there anything particularly that has drawn you to the 48 Days community?
Well, I think I actually got connected to Dan's community through Dave Ramsey's community. I was a big Dave Ramsey fan, and I heard Dave talk a lot about Dan and the work that he did. So I got connected to his podcast, and I found that trait over time. Like, you listen to one podcast and you end up picking up a really interesting person, and they have a podcast. So, I mean, I probably have a dozen podcasts that I listen on and off to. And so that's how I got connected. But I really like the mission of the community. It really kind of hits my heart. And it's something that, I try to incorporate a lot of the learnings in everything I do, whether it be in my work life or even my personal life. So it's been a big part of, I think, my success journey.
Awesome. And, we didn't mention that you are the SVP. What is your title with Delta? I'm super, you're just doing cool stuff. So let's just share that.
Yeah, so I'm the Senior Vice President of Software Engineering at Delta. So I have responsibility for most of the applications that you would see as a customer, whether it be Delta.com, Fly Delta app, all the technology within the airports. I also have operations technology and corporate technology, so things like finance, HR support. So I run all the technology components for that. So it's a busy life, and we have a pretty large team that we support, and that's really probably ties into my desire to really strongly bring in leadership practices, because I lead a large team, and I think it's important to kind of pour into the leaders that are underneath you and help them in their journeys.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, we will hop into that in just a moment. Can you tell us, we were just talking before this, about some of the adventures you've been able to go on? This is so much fun.
Well, yeah, and I've always been an aviation enthusiast, I will say. Actually, a little known fact about me, I'm a private pilot. And so I actually have my pilot's license. I have not flown in quite a while. When I started raising our family, it became a little difficult to fly around, but love aviation, always have. One of the favorite things I have to do is go to air shows. So I used to drag my kids along to air shows to watch the Blue Angels and all the big jets, and we had lots of fun. But
Nice.
I kind of developed this heart for travel as well. I was very fortunate in the beginning of my career. I traveled with work to a lot of Asia Pacific. So Taiwan, South Korea, Philippines, Japan, a number of places, and did this before a cell phone. I try to remind my kids like how crazy it was that in the early 90s, I would go travel overseas and not have a phone with me. And I had
Wow.
no wayfinding, no maps, no anything. And the world is so different now. But I've had that heart for exploration. And so I've been able to really go a lot of places in the world. I still have a lot of places on my list, but like, for example, this year, my wife and I, we had a trip with friends to Punta Cana. And then
Nice.
we also traveled to Amsterdam to see the tulips blooming in April. And then most recently, we actually were in India. And so I got a bucket list item scratched off where I went to the Taj Mahal. And
Oh,
I got one of those great pictures and, of course, blew it up and put it on the wall. So I got a lot of places and adventures I still want to do. So I'm not going to claim to wanting to visit every country in the world, but I do want to see, obviously every continent. I want to definitely see all the big places, and we just love travel, and can be exhausting at times. Obviously, I think we all know you change time zones, so it stresses you out. So you want to balance all those things out together. But we love travel.
I love that. And you actually have an upcoming trip that I also think is so cool with your
Yeah,
brother.
my brother and I are planning a trip. We're not exactly sure exactly what country, but we think it'll be probably like Norway, Finland. But we always wanted to go see a Metallica concert together, and so we're working on planning that. So that we're thinking of that part of the world to make sure we're always hitting somewhere new. So
I love it.
I
So much
probably
fun.
don't look like a Metallica guy, but that was back from my youth.
It's fair. It's fair. I love it. I love it. Well, Matt, so you asked us that really great question that I asked just a minute ago, which was, what do you wish that your leaders would have taught you about, managing and leading teams? And you have quite the vast background. Can you share with us like kind of where you've come from to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I graduated with a degree in electrical engineering and had a computer engineering minor, and was hired by Motorola Semiconductor. And Motorola, it's still a brand out there, but it was a very big brand at the time. They were actually the number one phone manufacturer in the 90s. So it was a very big brand. And so the division I went into, just like anybody, you're just generally usually happy to have a job, when you first get out of school, first job there. And very quickly, I realized like it was in my heart to be a leader. And so I work with management to try to define opportunities where I eventually could lead a team. And they were very supportive of that. So I really look fondly back to that time. But I will tell you that, like many other leaders, I got put in a job before I even know what I was doing. There was no manager 101 training. You just basically get a team assigned to you and you kind of figure it out on the job. And so probably my wish was, I wish that somebody had invested a little bit more in developing a manager program, and it could kind of teach me some of the basics about managing budgets, managing people, dealing with complex situations, dealing with stakeholders, all the things that really are required to be a good technology leader. I kind of wish there was a program in place, which is really kind of what inspired me within our organization here to develop a program. We call it Elevate Academy. And it's basically a curriculum that we've done. We have 3 levels of leaders that we've done within my team. So we have our managers, our general managers, and our directors that we've taken different versions of that course to kind of teach them relevant content for their career, part of the career they're in and where they're going. And so that was one big thing, is just like kind of investing. Probably another thing I could say that I kind of wish leaders had done was investing more in myself. I know Dan through the 48 Days community, I think he talks about something like, invest 3% of your income into in self-investment. And I think back to the beginning of my career to where it is now, the resources available to somebody who's starting are so much better. When I first started, it was basically hard books and then maybe some audio tape that you'd buy from one of those weekend commercials yourself. Now the world is totally different. There's, we have podcasts, audiobooks, books, YouTube. I mean, there's just a tons of information, and that may get people overloaded, but at the same time, I feel like it's a world of opportunity for anybody who wants to advance themselves. And it doesn't always have to be just about hierarchical advancement. You may just want to grow the breadth of your experience. because it's not always about, kind of moving up the ladder. Sometimes it's about just deepening and planting where you are.
Right. You make some really good points there too, especially like moving up the ladder. That's not for everybody, right? Some people are perfectly content where they are, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't continue to grow personally and professionally. Exactly. I love that. I love that you put that together. Can I just ask you really quickly? I didn't put a couple of the questions I've asked you. I'm sorry, I didn't even put the questions, and I know though you and I are similar in personality. Thank goodness, so you can handle it. Can you actually share what is your personality, Matt? What is your DISC personality?
Oh yeah, boy, you got me on the spot here now. But I think I'm trying to remember all the letters and where I was at. But I definitely think I'm not, an extrovert. Definitely like to, get out with people. I am a people person. Just like any other measure, though, we always have a little bit of ourselves that's an introvert and another part that's an extrovert. And it's just that kind of like, which side do you show more of? I definitely say that the work side that I show is probably much more extroverted. When I get home, I'm probably more of an introvert, so it's a little bit different. But I'd say that's probably my high mark. And I think what's interesting too is, to your point, we did a DISC assessment with my whole team, and there was actually only a couple of my leaders that had a similar scoring to me. Yeah. Many of them were, you could imagine, deeply analytical people, and is, in the technology discipline, that's really what you need to be focused on, is deeply analytical people. And so what it forced all of us to do. And by the way, our teams loved doing that.
I wasn't trying to plug. I was just curious. Your personality.
No, it's great you mentioned it though, too, because I got more feedback and excitement from that session than probably just about any session that we did where we went over the DISC results. Because it was just fascinating for people. Some people don't even know where they fit on that continuum, and it's kind of good to know where they're at. Because self-awareness is probably the best gift you can give yourself, right? It's just being self-aware. And so understanding, your personality traits and where you line up is critically important. But just, even the exercise, because it also pointed out to people that we are investing in them. And, that's something that, many companies struggle with their leaders, is like, well, how is my company investing in me? And, And I do believe investment is a two-way street. We kind of started with that. I kind of had wished my earlier leaders had focused a little bit more on self-investment. And I encourage all my leaders, like I have my own personal website, mattcincera.com, and it's a very simple site because a lot of it is just about what am I listening to and what am I reading. And I try to share that. And, people that I think you have to create those motivational energies within yourself. And a lot of those books and podcasts, and I don't mean motivated again to be, you don't have to lead a huge company or do all these. You might just be motivated for your next part of your life journey. So to me, it's important to tie those things together.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think the reason that it was interesting to me to think about your personality styles, because you do have that high I, that extroverted in you. But I think, we all tend to think that leaders have to be all of that, your I's and your D's, you're dominant and driven and you're interactive, but you do have that analytical piece, which I actually think makes you able to be sincere and more empathetic and, be able to drive what you need to drive because you got a lot going on.
Absolutely.
I love it. So, Matt, can you share with us, what are some of if you could talk to leaders today and you could share with them what you think, there's such a crazy world happening right now with the workplace, and there's, lots of lack of leadership. There's, people who are trying to figure out what to do, but maybe some of the seniors are retired. I mean, there's just so much happening right now. You got younger people coming in that don't know what the heck to do.
Yep.
What do you think right now? And I don't, obviously we're not going to get political in this, but we want to just thinking of leadership, just specifically in leadership. Is there something that you would tell a young leader today who is kind of trying to do what you did, rise up in that corporate setting?
Yeah, there's several things I could share. I guess one, consistency is really key as a leader. And the way you get consistent is by setting up consistent routines. So one of the things that, like when I walk into any role, if I were to take a new role tomorrow, one of the basic things I would do is explain to the team, okay, here's Matt's routines. So for example, I do regular one-on-one meetings with my direct reports. I do an all hands 15-minute call every week. So every week, every person in my organization hears from me. I have weekly staff meetings. And so there's a rhythm to everything I put in place. And so they know that everybody will know consistently. I know I'm going to get time with Matt if I've got an issue to cover with him. I know he's going to be talking about broad topics that people need to hear about. And there's a venue every week. People can ask me questions every week, and they can ask me hard questions. And I encourage them to do that. In the corporate environment today, we have lots of hard questions that people have for leaders. And I think it's important not to shy away from it. Now, sometimes the answer is also no, though, right?
Right.
There's that phrase, the higher power answers all questions, but sometimes the answer is no, right?
Right.
So we're not now. And so I think it's important to be transparent about it. It's not just about saying yes to everything. It's just being very articulate and clear about it. And I think clearly communicating your vision, your agenda, and putting routines in place to do that. I hear time and time again about people at organizations that they're frustrated. One of the first things they'll tell you is, oh, my leader never meets with me, or I never hear from senior leaders, or I don't know when they're going to talk to us in a meeting. And so I try to put in places where I somewhat hold my team accountable to say, hey, I'm there every week. If you're not showing up and you're not listening, that's a little bit on you too. So it's a two-way street. Communication is not one way, right? It's two ways. Right. So putting those routines and communication is important. Another thing I'll probably double click on that can be a challenge is, are you being candid and honest with people? There's that one phrase that honesty is kindness. I think as a leader, like, again, going back to my earlier self, I kind of wish leaders would tell me to say, be more direct. If somebody, for example, is having a hard time with something, first of all, observe, tell them, hey, I think you're struggling in this area. How can I help you? Be clear about it. Don't let it fester. Be direct about it and address it. And I find that that's been an important part of success over time. And I probably got more direct with people as I've gone on in time, because I realized you just need to be direct about, how people are doing good, or if they have challenges, being direct about it.
I love that. You're so right. Because if you don't, then people are just always wondering, what do they expect? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? That's a lot of stress.
Well, and I'd say one other thing that I'll mention too is, I always tell people to develop an internal clock. That's important. Like knowing when you need to take care of something, developing a sense of urgency. In the business world, one of the things that we can all see with the advent of things like AI and others, that it's all related to speed, right? We all want to do things faster, make decisions faster, get the answers faster. And it's not just this hyper competitive environment. It's just that that's the way the world's going, is we're becoming much more efficient. And so communications are an important part to be very efficient as well. And that, again, that candor comes into that.
I love it. Yeah, so true. Oh my goodness, you dropped so much gold just in that question right there. I love it. Well, Matt, I know we need to start wrapping up. So can you tell us, I did prep you with this question. I don't know if you saw it or not, but can you tell us something funny or interesting about yourself?
Well, about myself, I like to tinker. I like to do home projects. I've got lots of things that I've done in my house. So sometimes I probably get a little braggy showing it off, but built an electronic pinball machine in the house. I would like the kind of classic video games. So built a classic video game. Love photography. So tied in with my travel desire. We have a lot of photo walls in our house. So we put a lot of impactful places that we've been to, like, Italy and, Venice and Rome and Greece and all these other places. And we put a lot of pictures there because it just helps remind us how fortunate we are, that we live in a world where you can travel and see different people and meet different cultures. So that's important. A couple things I'd also add, this may sound a little geeky, but I'm very excited about AI. and what
Oh,
AI is bringing to the table. And I know you're big onto that too.
oh yeah.
And so I feel like we're in the very early stages. So those folks that are looking at it thinking that this is kind of like the next chapter, I'm like, I think we're only at the first page of the next chapter. And there's I know Google made an announcement yesterday of some capabilities they're bringing out, but they're all going to bring it out. All the big tech companies. This is they understand that this is the, lack of better words, the next gold rush, in technology. And I personally believe this is a real one. We see a lot of technology trends come along, and sometimes they don't really pick up, but this one feels more real to me. It kind of reminds me, I remember seeing Steve Jobs do the iPhone launch in I think it was 2007. And I remember watching, I'm like, this thing's going to change everything. And I kind of feel that way about AI right now. So fun might be, again, too geeky, but I'm very interested in it. And then the other thing I'd say is,
I'm having lots of fun with it. So no, I don't think it's geeky at all.
No, there's obviously where, a lot of the companies are grappling with how to do this responsibly. So we're going through all the paces, on that part, and we'll do the right thing. Obviously, we always do. One other thing I'd mention though too is a fun thing. I just continue to do a lot of listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, videos, live events, and I would just encourage people that if you're not doing much of that, you probably need to. Maybe turn the music off in the car a little bit on your commute and kind of fill your mind with good, positive messages. That's something I think that Dan talked about. He talks about it several times in his podcast about just putting good things into your head. Good, and it helps me when I'm on my drive into work or the drive home. I listen to radio once in a while, listen to music, but a lot of my time is spent just listening to good quality content. And I feel like it's made me better. And I joke that my car is my mobile university, so who knows?
Me too.
Maybe I've gotten another bachelor's degree that I didn't even realize, in that car.
Right?
With all the books.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And you're so right. You hit it right on the nail. There's too much information out there for us today to not do whatever it is that we want to do or learn or grow. You should definitely be doing that. I agree. I love it. Oh my gosh, Matt, you and I are kindred spirits in so many ways, and we love leadership. We love personal growth. We both love travel. And, I really do feel, you and I both know, because we've been around Dan Miller, Dave Ramsey, some of these leaders for years, who you surround yourself with is key, right? And
Absolutely.
So I am super thankful to know you, to watch what you're doing with your team, to get to see a little bit of that. It's just beyond thrilling for me. So thank you for joining us today. Is there anything that you would like to share, but just to kind of final thoughts, wrap up for our conversation today?
Yeah, just closing. We kind of tapped on it already, but just encourage people that the best investment you can make is in yourself. And so think about where you're spending your time. If you're struggling to find time in the day to get certain things done, you probably have the time and you don't realize it, and there's different people will tell you to just map out a week and just jot down, what did you do every hour? And you'll find that time and, put down the TV remote for a little while. TV's good. It's good to get, chill out a little bit and relax, but try to weave in those things that you want to do for yourself. And I try to remind myself there's a lot that I want to do for myself that I look and I'm like, I probably had some dead time. I could have done those things. So it's a continual battle, and we all run busy lives, but, having a really well structured kind of plan for the future and building that time to invest in yourself, I think is the key for me.
I love that. And we did actually get a comment. Jody's been watching. Thank you so much, Jody. The best investment you can make in yourself. Thanks, Matt. Yes. Thanks, Jody, for joining us. Awesome. So, oh my gosh, I know that this is going to be so valuable to Dan's audience and to my audience. So thank you so much for joining us today, Matt. We really appreciate it. And hold on. We got another comment. I'm going to put it up there. Usually I don't, but yeah, space to breathe. Yes, it's
Absolutely.
so good. So good. All right, guys. Next week, we will be on here with Ashley Logston. She's going to be talking about how to manage productivity in virtual spaces. And we've got a bonus gift guide for the different personalities and lifestyles. So she's doing 2 next Monday. Yay. So join us for next week. And again, thank you so much, Matt, for being here. Until next time, guys, live creatively. I will see you next week. Bye.
All the best.